From an athlete completely fumbling his jump, to these relay race teammates constantly missing the baton high five. Brace yourself for some of track and field's most embarrassing moments. Anyone would be super embarrassed to mess up in front of a crowd, but not this guy. It's one thing to fail at your triple jump attempt, but to turn it into a lighthearted moment where you can laugh along with others, now that's something. Just look at this man. He seems ready to take on the field, charging straight towards the pit, but as soon as it's time to kick off the ground and land his jump, he manages to stumble and ruin his chance. That looked like it hurt. But luckily, this guy seems to have a good sense of humor. Mid-jump, he turned his body and was laughing at his own embarrassing failure. You gotta love his confidence and ability to make a fun moment out of a failed one. I mean, let's be honest, even the biggest athletes can sometimes mess up their big moments. Usain Bolt, the fastest man on earth himself, has had his fair share of embarrassing moments on the track. The ultimate speedster had a major hiccup during the 2011 World Championships in Daegu, South Korea. In the highly anticipated 100-meter final, Bolt stepped up to the starting blocks, ready to unleash his lightning-fast moves. The crowd was buzzing with excitement, expecting another jaw-dropping display of Bolt's sheer brilliance. He's the reigning champion, after all, and everyone's favorite sprinter. But here comes the plot twist. As the starting gun goes off, Bolt, in a momentary lapse of concentration or maybe just a bad case of anticipation, false starts. Bolt's dominance was momentarily shattered, and you could almost hear the record scratch in the stadium. The man who seemed invincible, the one who made sprinting look like a piece of cake, had stumbled at the starting line. Now, you can imagine the mix of emotions that must have rushed through Bolt's mind. Surprise, frustration, maybe even a tinge of embarrassment. But hey, let's give credit where credit's due. Despite the disappointment, Bolt handled it with grace and sportsmanship, accepting the consequences of his false start. It just goes to show that even the greatest athletes can have their off days. And for Bolt, that false start was a reminder that he's human, just like the rest of us. But you know what's amazing? He didn't let that one slip define him. He bounced back stronger than ever and continued to dominate the world of sprinting for years to come. But he's not the only one to mess up his chance because of a false start. Dwayne Chambers from Great Britain couldn't hold it together and false started like there was no tomorrow. In the 2011 World Championships during a sprint event, the tension was high. The sprinters were ready to explode out of their blocks when suddenly, Dwayne Chambers couldn't seem to hold back and sprinted before he was supposed to. Talk about bad timing. The false start rule was supposed to prevent exactly this kind of blunder. But hey, nerves can mess with even the best athletes. It was a facepalm moment for Chambers and a lesson in self-control for all of us. Though a false start isn't nearly as painful as what Haruki Ogita had to deal with. He was all set to clear the bar at a whopping height of 5.3 meters. But the universe had other plans for him. As he soared through the air, gracefully attempting to clear the bar, disaster struck in the most unfortunate way possible. You see, his body managed to slink past the bar just fine. But guess what got caught on it? Yep, you guessed it right. His private parts. Can you imagine the pain and embarrassment? Haruki had to face the excruciating consequences of his jump gone wrong, and it cost him dearly. It's the kind of moment that would make you wish the ground would open up and swallow you whole. Let's raise a sympathetic glass, or maybe an ice pack to Haruki. May he find comfort in knowing that anyone can have a moment where gravity may not be in their favor. But gravity didn't stop Meb Keflezighi from turning his fall into a funny moment at the Rio Olympics. In the middle of the marathon, Meb was pushing himself to the limit. But then, he slipped and took a tumble. Luckily, instead of getting all worked up or throwing a tantrum, Meb decided to make the best of the situation. So without missing a beat, Meb dropped down and started busting out push-ups like it's a part of his regular marathon routine. Can you imagine the look on the faces of the other runners in the crowd? But you have to give it to Meb. He took that embarrassing moment and turned it into a hilarious spectacle. He injected a dose of lightheartedness and comic relief into the intense marathon race. It's those unexpected moments of humor that make sports even more entertaining. But sometimes, a stumble can affect not only you, but others as well. Look at this pack of runners zooming along, focused on crossing that finish line. When out of nowhere, one runner loses their footing and takes a spectacular tumble. And you know what's even crazier? They managed to bring not just one, but two other unsuspecting runners down with them. It's like a domino effect, one going down after the other. The first runner slips, flails their arms, and bam! Two unlucky souls get caught in the chaos and crash to the ground as well. It's a wild chain reaction that leaves everyone watching with their jaws dropped. You can imagine the confusion and chaos that follows. The fallen runners scramble to untangle themselves. Meanwhile, the rest of the pack tries to navigate around the unexpected obstacle course on the track. It's a scene straight out of a slapstick comedy routine. But hey, let's not forget, as hilarious as it may seem, it's also a humbling reminder of the unpredictable nature of sports. One moment you're sprinting towards victory, and the next, you're tangled up on the ground like a bunch of confused spaghetti. But nothing's worse than completely losing track of the finish line in your confusion, because that's what happened during the 2000 Sydney Olympics marathon. The competitors were cruising along, setting the pace like a boss. But then, out of the blue, a lot of them end up off track. Yep, turns out a bunch of runners took a detour they never signed up for, and you won't believe how it happened. Apparently, some mischievous spectator decided to place a signpost to mislead them. Like, seriously, who does that? So there they are, these badass athletes running their hearts out, when suddenly they find themselves in uncharted territory. Confusion sets in, frustration mounts, and you can almost hear the collective groan echoing through the race. But hey, let's not be too hard on them. After all, it's not their fault that some cheeky spectator decided to mess with the signs. And sometimes confusion can occur mid-race due to a slip-up by your teammate. So let's not forget about the relay races where teamwork is key. In the 2012 London Olympics, the United States men's 4x100m relay team was cruising along in the qualifying round. They were eyeing that sweet spot in the final. Everything seemed okay until disaster struck during the baton exchange between the second and third runners. The baton slipped through their fingers, hit the ground, and shattered their dreams of glory. They scrambled to pick it up and finish the race, but it was game over. The disappointment was real, my friends. It was a reminder that even the most rehearsed moves can go wrong when the pressure's on. The pressure can even cause athletes to miss their baton exchange multiple times. Like these ladies, racing across the course, determined to reach the finish line. At the start, they're doing just fine, with the girl getting ready to take hold of the baton as her teammate comes charging towards her. They're all focused, eyes locked on that precious baton. But then, disaster strikes. Just as she reaches out, she fumbles and misses it completely. Now here's where it gets interesting. The baton has to be passed between two specific marks on the track. So when she misses, she goes past her mark and almost risks disqualification. Here we are, watching the scene unfold in slow motion with the audience collectively groaning and facepalming. But hold on, her partner isn't one to give up easily. Despite the flash of frustration and embarrassment on their faces, you can see their determination shining through. They both realize what needs to be done. They run back to their respective positions, making sure they stay true to the rules. It's like a race against time and confusion. However, in the midst of all that chaos, the girl misses the baton not once, but several times. The pressure and confusion probably got the best of her, but hey, who can blame her? In these high-stakes matches, even the tiniest slip-up can feel like the end of the world for some. But you know what? Despite the mishaps and the extreme embarrassment, you can't help but appreciate their determination to carry on with the race. They don't let one silly mistake define them. They pick themselves up, dust off the embarrassment, and keep running. Honestly, if it were me in that situation, I'd probably shrink into a little puddle of embarrassment and give up. But not these ladies. They show us what it means to persevere and never let a small hiccup break their spirit. And that's what sports are really all about. So, from the relay race teammates constantly missing the baton high five, to an athlete completely fumbling his jump, these were some of track and field's most embarrassing moments.